And you do have experience. I'd say the one thing you have over me is experience, but it's bad experience because what you've done has turned out badly. If you become president, this country is going to be in some mess, believe me.
He raised the 30 years of experience. So let me just talk briefly about that. In the 1980s, I was working to reform the schools in Arkansas. He was borrowing $14 million from his father to start his businesses. And on the day when I was in the Situation Room monitoring the raid that brought Osama bin Laden to justice, he was hosting the Celebrity Apprentice.
Those were the presidential candidates, Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, during last night's final presidential debate. How did they do? And what should the candidates focus on as they head to the final weeks before Election Day? Joining us to analyze the debate and more is CNBC senior contributor, radio host, and author of the new book, JFK and the Reagan Revolution, Larry Kudlow. Larry, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Raymond. Thanks for having me.
Look, I guess the big question is whether either of these candidates did what they needed to do to move the needle to draw new voters into their column. Did you see any of that last night?
I didn't see much of it. I mean, I think Donald Trump may have had his best debate. He scored heavily on a lot of points: Constitution, pro-life, judges, Second Amendment. He nailed Hillary on the emails and the, cash favors in government and the corruption. He was very strong on that. She rebutted some of that. I give her credit. She parried it. She was able to maneuver around. But I think the biggest thing that was missing from Mr. Trump was he has a very strong pro-growth tax cut plan. And in particular, you've heard me say this, Raymond, his business tax cut, 15% rate for large and small companies. Repatriate the overseas cash, immediate expensing for new investment. These are job creators. These are wage increasers. These are growth measures. That's the #1 issue in the campaign. He got some of it out, but he didn't really make the sale. At least that's my reading of it. He's got a couple weeks to make a better pitch, but I just don't think he did it because she's just a tax and spend liberal. That's all she's got.
Well, we're going to revisit some of those moments, Larry. I want to start with what has become the most controversial comment of the night, and it's this one. Chris Wallace was asking Trump if he would accept the determination and the will of the people and the results of this election no matter what. Here's what he said.
I will look at it at the time. I'm not looking at anything now. I'll look at it at the time. What I've seen is so bad. First of all, the media is so dishonest and so corrupt, and the pile-on is so amazing. I will tell you at the time. I'll keep you in suspense.
Well,
okay?
Chris, let me respond to that because that's horrifying. Every time Donald thinks things are not going in his direction, he claims whatever it is rigged against him.
Now, Larry, he's since come out at an Ohio event and said this.
I would like to promise and pledge to all of my voters and supporters and to all of the people of the United States that I will totally accept the results of this great and historic presidential election if I win.
Was that a good explain away of his original comment? And is the media making more of this than perhaps it's due?
Well, I think the media is making much more of this. The media is clearly anti-Trump, and they're trying to blow this up. However, I think Mr. Trump made a mistake last night. I think it was a blunder. The way he said it, that's all. There are irregularities. There are issues of fraud. We've seen this in the past. He could have said, look, if we look at everything and it works out and there's no big problems, yes, of course, I will abide by the election results. Kellyanne Conway, his campaign manager, clarified that this morning, and I thought she did a pretty good job. But the way Mr. Trump phrased it last night, I don't think that was good. Mrs. Clinton jumped all over it, saying you're anti-democracy and things of that sort, which really aren't true. But it was a blunder, and he's paying for it.
I want to go to the tax plan, Larry. Here's what they had to say, particularly Hillary Clinton, critiquing Donald Trump's tax plan. Listen.
I want us to raise the national minimum wage. I want to make college debt-free and for families making less than $125,000. We are going to have the wealthy pay their fair share. We're going to have corporations make a contribution greater than they are now to our country. That is a plan that has been analyzed by independent experts, which said that it could produce 10 million new jobs. By contrast, Donald's plan has been analyzed to conclude it might lose 3.5 million jobs. Why? Because his whole plan is to cut taxes, to give the biggest tax breaks ever to the wealthy and to corporations, adding $20 trillion to our debt.
Will it add $20 trillion to the debt? Larry Kudlow, you helped shape the Trump plan.
Well, look, Mrs. Clinton's making a case from one particular model, which seems to like her plan. I don't buy it. She's going to raise taxes by over $1 trillion. It's class warfare. You tell me, if you're in a stagnant, near-recession economy, do we want a $1 trillion tax hike? Now, the Tax Foundation has a better model, if you ask me, and it scores Mr. Trump's plan to lower individual and business taxes as very pro-growth, very pro-wages, very pro-investment, very pro-capital formation. The revenue loss, so-called, is only $2 or $3 trillion. That can be made up with spending cuts. Look, she's got a laundry list of Obama 3, okay? She wants to help this group. She wants to help that group. It doesn't work for me. Raising taxes doesn't work for me. Problem was last night, Mr. Trump should have said, you know, my business tax cut for large and small companies will help the middle-income wage earners the most. And that is a true fact, according to much research. He's also lowering individual taxes. He's also increasing the standard deduction. In other words, sure, if you're at the upper end and you're in a progressive tax code, any tax cut is going to give you the biggest share. But they will also pay more. Trump wanted to limit deductions. He didn't get that out. You know, I'm a Reagan guy, right? So she's about 4 or 5 times during the debate talking about raising taxes. If I were Mr. Trump, I would have said, oh, there she goes again, another tax hike. She's taking money out of your pocket. I'm going to put money in your pocket. JFK did it successfully, the Democrat. Ronald Reagan, the Republican, did it. Even Bill Clinton cut the capital gains tax. I mean, these are things he could have said to really push back and unveil the hypocrisy of her program. Unfortunately, he did some of it. Don't get me wrong. He got some of it out, but he didn't get the whole package out. And that's why I'm not sure the meter's going to move that much.
Yeah. I want to roll this for you and for the audience. There was a discussion of open borders, noting those emails that have recently come out via WikiLeaks that have revealed the private side of Hillary Clinton. Watch.
In a speech you gave to a Brazilian bank for which you were paid $225,000, we've learned from the WikiLeaks that you said this, and I want to quote, "My dream is a hemispheric common market with open trade and open borders." Is that your dream, open borders?
Well, if you went on to read the rest of the sentence, I was talking about energy. But you are very clearly quoting from WikiLeaks. And what's really important about WikiLeaks is that the Russian government has engaged in espionage against Americans. They have hacked American websites, American accounts of private people, of institutions.
That was a great pivot off the fact that she wants open borders. Just to finish on the borders.
Yes.
She wants open borders. People are going to pour into our country. People are going to come in from Syria. She wants 550% more people than Barack Obama. And he has thousands and thousands of people. They have no idea where they come from. And you see, we are going to stop radical Islamic terrorism in this country. She won't even mention the words, and neither will President Obama.
Is this a return to the core issues that animated Trump's nomination at the beginning of this process?
Well, I think he did a good job on that, by the way. You know, her charges about Russian hacking and whatnot, they may be true, they may not be true, but that's a red herring. All that is a distraction from what the emails actually said. And I think they were accurately quoting it. She didn't really deny it. She tried to sort of say, well, that's about energy. That's not what the email said. She is in favor of open borders. Look, I'm an immigration reformer, but I don't want open borders, particularly during wartime. And I think Trump is right about the Syrian refugees. So I think he nailed her pretty good on that. And all this Russian stuff just clouded the issue. She was on her heels. Now, in terms of Donald's original idea, we've got to have legal immigration and we've got to have secure borders. And he got a chance to get back to some of those themes. I think it would help him. I think it did help him last night.
Yeah. I want to play this. This is about immigration and both of their plans. Roll that.
Well, first of all, she wants to give amnesty, which is a disaster and very unfair to all of the people that are waiting in line for many, many years. We need strong borders. And once the border is secured, at a later date, we'll make a determination as to the rest. But we have some bad hombres here, and we're going to get them out.
I think we are both a nation of immigrants and we are a nation of laws, and that we can act accordingly. And that's why I'm introducing comprehensive immigration reform within the first 100 days with a path to citizenship.
Larry Kudlow, you mentioned a moment ago, look, you're a comprehensive immigration guy. Are there areas where some in the House, particularly Paul Ryan and others, might find common cause with Hillary Clinton and find the Trump plan a bit off-putting?
Well, of course, that's an ongoing discussion. I think Paul Ryan and the House Republicans really do want border security. And I think they really do want to end sanctuary cities where these illegals who are criminals keep coming back into the country. Hillary doesn't address those issues.
Bad hombres.
They're very important issues. Bad hombres? Yes, of course there's some bad hombres. I mean, who are we kidding here? Some of these horror stories about Americans getting killed by illegals, you put them in jail, then you release them. I mean, all that. He was right on that. Now, there may be down the road room for some sort of longer-term deal. Look, Trump himself says, first, let's secure the border. And let's get rid of the illegals. Instead of catch and release, how about catch and deport right there at the border? I happen to favor that. So in terms of the potential deal, we'll have to see what the election brings. But again, I think Mrs. Clinton is just dead wrong about open borders, and I say that as a reformer. We're in a war, Raymond. We have to watch ourselves. You may not be able to do it perfectly, but it's worth a try to put up barriers and try to make our borders secure. That is worth a try. And on that point, Mr. Trump has actually moved me in his direction during this campaign.
Interesting. There was also talk of abortion. It was really front and center, Larry, during this debate in a way we hadn't heard it in the previous debates. And I don't think anybody can be confused at all about where these two candidates stand. Watch this.
I will defend Planned Parenthood. I will defend Roe v. Wade, and I will defend women's rights to make their own health care decisions. And we have come too far to have that turned back now.
I want to explore how far you believe the right to abortion goes. You have been quoted as saying that the fetus has no constitutional rights. You also voted against a ban on late-term partial birth abortions. Why?
The kinds of cases that fall at the end of pregnancy are often the most heartbreaking, painful decisions for families to make. I have met with women who, toward the end of their pregnancy, get the worst news one could get, that their health is in jeopardy if they continue to carry to term.
If you go with what Hillary is saying, in the 9th month, you can take the baby and rip the baby out of the womb of the mother just prior to the birth of the baby. Now, you can say that that's okay, and Hillary can say that that's okay, but it's not okay with me. Because based on what she's saying and based on where she's going and where she's been, you can take the baby and rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month on the final day, and that's not acceptable.
Larry, how do you think that resonates with faith-based voters, particularly Catholics who might be on the margins of this election?
I think it was the most brilliant part of his debate. And, of course, I'm a pro-life guy. The whole argument that you could actually kill a fetus after 9 months, or 9 months less 3 days, and that her argument is this is really a woman's health issue. No, this is an issue of life and death for the fetus. And I believe only God can create a life. Only God can take away a life, not Hillary Clinton or a bunch of liberal parliamentarians. I mean, this was Trump at his absolute best. He would not let go of that, and he is completely right. He was also good in the same section, I believe it was the beginning of the debate, Raymond. He was good on constitutionalist judges. He was very good on the Second Amendment, on gun control, and he was terrific on the pro-life position. I just thought that was Trump at his absolute finest. And on those points, he may have moved the meter somewhat. Absolutely.
No, I thought the direct talk, translating it in that way for the American people, I think does strike. It hits people in a very visceral way because of the construction of Donald Trump. There was no, gilded lily language. It was right to the quick. There was another moment, Larry, and I want to share this with you. He didn't really exploit the WikiLeaks treasure trove of the last few weeks. But there was this back and forth. Watch this.
This is a pattern of divisiveness, of a very dark and in many ways dangerous vision of our country, where he incites violence, where he applauds people who are pushing and pulling and punching at his rallies. That is not who America is.
So sad when she talks about violence at my rallies, and she caused the violence. It's on tape.
Larry, did he make enough of that, of the revelations both in WikiLeaks and this Project Veritas undercover tapes?
Well, I think he put it out there, and I don't think she had a very good response to it. So I think that was +1 for him. The other issue that came up was this: her former Undersecretary of State trying to make a deal with the FBI to protect her on, releasing or destroying these classified email tapes, the home server stuff. He got that in. That's pretty strong stuff. I've seen polls in the last 3 days where inside key states like Ohio, people really took notice of this chicanery from the WikiLeaks emails. So I think Trump got there. To me, Mrs. Clinton tried to turn this into an issue about Russia. And that's just, as I said, a red herring. That's just a distraction. Here are some important facts that you should know. Trump did a good job on this. She did the best she could. Yeah. I think Trump scored pretty good points. But again, Raymond, the #1 issue, every poll, pocketbook, economy, jobs, he has a good plan, if I do say so myself. He just needs to sell it. He just needs to be more convincing. He can do it. I know he can do it. But I think that's the task ahead for him.
Well, we'll see what he does in the coming days. We'll also be watching Hillary Clinton. Larry Kudlow, thanks so much. His book, JFK and the Reagan Revolution, is available at bookstores everywhere. Thank you, Larry.
Thanks very much, Raymond. Appreciate it.